times have you apologized today when it didn't really require an apology? Maybe you said sorry when somebody bumped into you, or sorry, I just have a quick question. These are what I call micro apologies. And while we may wrap them up as being polite, they can sometimes become an unconscious habit. There was a time where I thought, what did this look like in me? And I realized I apologize constantly simply for existing. You see, I grew up an extremely introverted child in an extremely extroverted family. See the trauma in my eyes? And they had this really embarrassing nickname for me that they called me, and some of them still have the audacity to still call me it. And I can't believe I'm going to stand up on this stage and actually say this out loud. Okay, yes, I'm going to. I'm really deciding right in the moment. They called me Worm, right? And it wasn't just a nickname, it was a persona that they assigned to me. And at some point, I adopted deeply. Now, I was very tiny, very easy to overlook, and always in my books. But at some point, I also decided that if I stayed small, I stayed safe. But it was even deeper than that. I became a mother at 16. I was married at 18, had my second child at 19, my third child at 22, and became a single parent at 25. I felt like a walking cautionary tale, and I apologized both out loud and in my head for being young, for being a mom, for needing help, for accepting help, even for daring to still have dreams. And being a single parent, it was hard. Apologizing for it constantly made it even harder. A pivotal moment for me came at a low time when I didn't know how I would feed myself, let alone 3 always hungry boys. One night, the 2 older boys sent the youngest one to ask if we could order pizza for dinner, to increase their odds. And I told him, you know what, go back into the living room and watch a movie with your brothers, and I'll bring you out something to eat. Now, I don't know what he heard in his little head, but he runs out to them and he goes, she said yes. For the record, I did not say yes. Instead, through tears, I went in the kitchen and did some creative chefing, something that I had learned to do really well. I grabbed some tortillas, some tomato sauce, some seasoning, some government cheese, and some meat that for the purposes of today, we're gonna call pepperoni. I grilled that in a skillet and let the government cheese grease get the tortillas, a little crispy, if you know about that government cheese. Flipped it out onto a flat plate, and I sliced it up and delivered it to the boys, along with promises and apologies and telling them that it wasn't always going to be like this. And then I went back to the kitchen and waited for the riots and the protests. But they never came. I heard giggling. I heard whispers, silence. And then I started hearing one of them come into the kitchen, and I was like, oh, here it comes. Let me get myself together. And I turned around and I saw my youngest son, who looked at me with his greasy little mouth and said, Mom, these are the best quesadillas we've ever had. They gave it a name, y'all. But it was in that moment that I realized that I still looked at my life and my decisions as this list of mistakes, but it wasn't. It was a curriculum. And if I paid attention and I stopped apologizing for it, it could become my expertise. And what was I teaching my sons? How was I supposed to be raising 3 black men in this world with a strategy of apology for navigating it? Absolutely not. So I knew I needed to make some changes in myself. And so I decided that I would do 3 things to help me change my mindset and my behavior. So the first thing that I did is that I learned to clear my lens. Now, up until that point, my lens was teen mom, introvert, worm, but to them, I was mom. I was creator of all things, CEO of the house. So I had to move differently. So not only did I zoom in on these apologies, but I zoomed out on some of my other behaviors. And so I started to zoom not only in on the apologies, but out on my behaviors. I started looking at how did I show up in the spaces where I needed to make an impact. And spoiler alert, that was all spaces. And then I realized there was something also going on with some of the language I was using. I used one word habitually. I was just thinking, I just want to ask. I'm just checking in. Just. Every just was a micro apology in disguise, and I was minimizing my voice. Who can relate? That is your lens talking. So, here's what I like for you to do. I like to help you with clearing your lens. Is there a word or a phrase that may be shrinking you? Over this next week, I want you to zoom in on your language. What does that look like? I just want to can be, I want to. Sorry to bother you could be, do you have a moment? Words matter. Apologies, they don't serve yourself, but more importantly, they don't serve anybody else. Don't believe me? How many times somebody said to you, you don't have to apologize. Don't apologize. Don't say sorry. Maybe it's time that we started moving accordingly. The second thing that I began to do is I started defining and owning my values. If your lens is about who you are, your values are how and what drive your decisions. That meant I had to start asking myself, how did I make decisions as a mom, as a daughter, as a sister, as a niece, as an auntie, as a professional, as a leader? And in every definition, 2 values came to mind. I wanted to be authentic to myself, and I wanted to continuously learn and grow. I once left a job that I loved. It was one of those types of companies where it was hard to get in and then you didn't leave, right? People stayed forever. But what I also watched happen is that if you were really good at a thing, they would keep you doing that thing forever. And that was what was happening to me. So I decided to leave. And it was the hardest professional decision that I ever made. But what I learned by letting my values lead that decision is that my decisions were data and not a diagnosis. So my second ask of you for this week is for you to do some thinking about your values. And next time you're thinking about making a hard decisions, ask yourself, is this decision aligned with my values or somebody else's comfort? And again, act accordingly. Now, the last behavior is my favorite, and I put this into practice, and I still do this a lot, because once I got settled on who I was and got aligned on what my values were, I started to practice daily radical self-love. Now, I love a good spa day, but I'm talking about something deeper than that. I'm talking about being in alignment to yourself and not negotiating your right to exist. I often talk about being authentic and unapologetic, so much so that I put it on a t-shirt. And I was wearing this t-shirt as I was actually racing to make a flight. And in a hotel elevator, a gentleman walked in, he read my shirt, and he said, Can I be authentic but still apologize for being an introvert? Hit me hard as an introvert myself. But I didn't have time to actually have that conversation. So I had to give him the short answer, which was no. You cannot apologize for something that fundamentally makes you who you are. That statement works together or it doesn't work at all. Do you understand? So, my third ask of you is to do some reprogramming of your subconsciousness. I'm a big believer in affirmations, and I write a daily affirmation, repeat it 3 times to support myself and get myself going in the morning. One of the earliest affirmations was coined by a French psychologist, and it went, every day, in every way, I am getting better and better. So I want you to write a version of that for yourself that aligns to your life. Repeat it, and then commit to taking one action in alignment every day. When I stopped apologizing for existing, my sons saw what it looked like to rewrite a story. That was the greatest outcome of this mindset shift and behavior shift. I know that they know that if they need to rewrite their stories, if and when they need to, they can. In fact, I have seen them do it. So I hope that is a takeaway for you as well. Every day, in every way, you're getting better and better. Thank you.